My dad tried to force me to hand over my house to my influencer sister for her kids, so I gave them exactly what they deserved. And it nearly blew up the whole family. I'm 32 now, and I never expected to write this, but my hands are still trembling with rage as I type. I worked my whole adult life to build something real, and my family tried to take it like it was theirs. For the last decade, I've been a vet tech at a packed animal hospital in Omaha. It's not some six-figure tech bro gig. I make about $61,000 a year, but I love it. There's something powerful in helping animals heal, even if it means being clawed, pissed on, and covered in dog hair more often than not. When a pet owner hugs you in tears because their dog can walk again, that's worth every scratch. But buying a home on a vet tech's paycheck? That's a long game. Since I was 22, I lived like a broke college kid. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 guys, one of whom imported illegal European cheeses from his bedroom. Don't ask, the smell still haunts me. I drove a beat-up '98 Corolla that needed jumper cables more than gas, and I lived off $2 burritos and whatever was growing mold in our fridge. Meanwhile, my older sister, Brittany, 35 and 3 kids deep, was living like she was auditioning for a reality show about delusional influencers. Think pyramid scheme queen with 3 baby daddies, all of whom seemed to owe child support and emotional apologies. Brittany had it all: the MLM, wellness coach, starter pack, the Insta-perfect family photos and matching boho outfits, and captions like, "Raising my tribe with love and light sparkles kiss mark," while she dumped the kids on our parents to hit bottomless mimosa. Business meetings. She hasn't had a real job since quitting a hostess gig at Chili's in high school because burgundy clashes with my aura. Yet somehow she has a $1,200 phone, 3-ring light setups, and goes on retreats in Tulum with people named Skylar and Indigo. How? 2 words: our parents. Especially Dad. Growing up, if I needed sneakers for gym, Dad would grunt, "Money doesn't grow on trees." But if Brittany wanted a new MacBook for her manifesting journal, his credit card flew out of his wallet like magic. While I was skipping meals to save for a down payment, Dad was investing $30,000 into her CBD candle business that aligns chakras using scents. I lived in a cramped rental with mold in the corners. Brittany? Rent-free in my parents' guest house, renovated by Dad for her so she could record vlogs about healing through sea moss. But I stayed focused. I worked double shifts, picked up every emergency surgery slot I could, and saved every penny. And after 10 brutal years of hustling, I finally bought a house. Nothing fancy, a 3-bed, 1-bath rancher with weird green shag carpet in the bathroom and a hideous orange kitchen, but it was structurally solid and mine. I sat on that bare living room floor with takeout pizza and sobbed. After years of watching Brittany get everything handed to her, I finally had proof that hard work meant something. I'd made it on my own. Brittany, of course, once had her own place, a 4-bed colonial in the ritzy side of town. Our parents gave it to her as a fresh start. Wanna guess how long it took her to sell it and blow the money on a combination smoothie subscription and a DJ label for her then boyfriend? 9 months. That house was gone faster than her last crash diet. So there I was, finally thriving, finally at peace, until the Tuesday that changed everything. I'd just come off a 12-hour shift, running solely on black coffee and adrenaline. One of our cases was a Labrador who swallowed an entire sock drawer, not a joke. I was exhausted. I collapsed on my couch, still in scrubs, when my phone rang. It was my dad. "Hey, you home?" he said too casually. "Mind if I stop by for a chat?" My stomach dropped. 20 minutes later, 2 luxury SUVs pulled into my driveway. From one stepped Dad in his Lexus, the one for the family that only Brittany ever drives. From the other? Brittany in Louboutins that probably cost more than my car. I should have locked the door right then. They walked in like they owned the place. Brittany did a slow, judgmental scan. "This furniture is basic," she sneered. "Oh my God, we'll need to repaint everything white. Beige kills engagement." Engagement for what? I asked flatly. She smiled like a shark. Jasper needs a TikTok room. This would be perfect. Jasper is 8. We sat in my living room, Brittany sprawling over my chair like she was posing for a home goods catalog, and then Dad dropped the bomb. Son, your sister's had a hard year. We think it would make sense for her and the kids to move into this house. I stared at him, certain I misheard. You want me to give her my house? She has 3 kids, Dad said like that made it logical. You're just one person. You could get a nice apartment close to work. She already had a house. The one you gave her. She made a mistake. Brittany chimed in, already recording an Instagram story. Jackson's music was gonna be huge. Miami stole him before he could go platinum. And then came the kicker. Dad looked at me with that stern, businesslike tone he uses when he's about to justify a bad decision. If you don't help your sister, you might want to rethink your place in the will. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I stood up, walked to my office, and returned with a folder, one I'd been building since Brittany blew her house money. Cool, I said. Let's talk about the will. I dropped the folder on the coffee table, right on top of the basic coaster Brittany had just insulted 10 minutes earlier. The sound it made was deliberate. Sharp. Final. Dad flinched. Brittany paused mid-selfie. Let's do some quick math, I said, flipping the first page with surgical precision. The house you gave Brittany in Silvergate Hills? Valued at $795,000. Know what she sold it for? $805,000. Brittany groaned and tossed her phone on the couch. Are you really still bitter about that? It was forever ago. I'm trying to manifest abundance here and you're blocking my energy. I ignored her. Here's a copy of the deed transfer. Here's the bill of sale. Here's a withdrawal for $45,000 2 weeks later, wire transfer to her boyfriend Jackson, under a record label launch. That label? Doesn't exist. He vanished to Florida. Brittany got a tattoo out of it, though. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Brittany crossed her arms and stared at the ceiling like the truth was somehow up there. Then there's the $190,000 she dumped into her crystal healing spa empire, a business that didn't last longer than a college semester. That's not fair, Brittany snapped. I had to shut it down when the public wasn't spiritually ready. I kept flipping pages. And another $250,000 into a multi-level marketing water company. You remember that one, right? Alkaline Wellness something? It's ionized. She huffed. And it's not a scam just because you don't believe in hydration energy. Great. I deadpanned. Here's the Range Rover lease you signed 3 months before the pyramid scheme collapsed. You missed 6 payments before Dad bailed you out. Dad cleared his throat, trying to reassert control. Son, these numbers, they don't paint the full picture. Exactly, I said, sliding forward the final set of documents. Because the full picture is this. After years of enabling, you're now upside down financially. You've drained your retirement accounts to keep funding Brittany's brand, and I had a real estate friend run the numbers on your assets. I turned the page, and Dad actually whitened. Your entire estate? It's worth less than the money you already handed over to Brittany. If we're talking about wills, there's nothing left. The room went quiet. Brittany's influencer smile was cracking, one twitching eyelid at a time. I leaned back and crossed my arms. So go ahead, Dad. Cut me out of the will. But just so we're clear, I'm the only one in this family who's built something without asking for a dime. You've already given Brittany her inheritance. And she burned through it like it was a scented candle she couldn't resell. And that's when Brittany snapped. Her voice shot up 2 octaves. This is so unfair. You're just throwing numbers around like they matter more than my children's future. You mean the kids you exploit for sponsored skincare ads and TikTok unboxings? At least I have kids. She hissed, voice trembling now. You have, what? Dogs with allergies and a toilet from the 90s. Dad stood up, thinking he could still bring this home. This isn't how family works. We're supposed to lift each other up. No, I said, standing too. Family doesn't try to steal someone's home because their golden child failed again. Family doesn't throw out ultimatums about empty wills when one kid is footing the bill for their own bad choices. Brittany, now crying, sort of, pointed her phone at me again. I'm filming this. My followers are going to hear about this toxic crap. Make sure they hear all of it. I said, pulling out one last document, the one that killed the influencer tears on the spot. Remember that contract you signed with Dad when you got the house? That you'd use the money responsibly? Her phone dropped with a thud. That agreement includes a clause that allows Dad to revoke financial transfers and recoup assets if the money was misused. It also makes you technically liable for fraud. So if either of you keep pushing this, I will take this to a lawyer. I will drag every bank statement, every sponsored retreat, every bounced check into daylight. The silence was deafening. Even Brittany's fake crying had stopped. For the first time in a decade, either of them had a comeback. Now, I said, collecting my folder, get out of my house. And if you try this again, the next person who sees these papers will be wearing a suit and charging $300 an hour. I opened the door. Dad walked out first, mumbling something about reconsidering our approach. Brittany followed, mascara streaked and whispering about how she needed to realign her aura. The door clicked shut behind them. And for the first time since buying that house, it felt truly mine. But I should have known, they weren't done yet. I wish I could say that slamming the door on them was the end of it. That they sulked off into their bougie little shame hole and left me in peace. But that would require them having the capacity for shame. The next few days were blissfully quiet, except for Brittany's Instagram meltdown. She started posting cryptic stories about toxic family members and how sometimes the universe forces you to struggle so you can rise like a phoenix. One post even featured her sipping wine in a bubble bath with the caption, "Some people don't want to see you shine. Block the haters. Cleanse your space." Meanwhile, she was still living in our parents' guest house rent-free while Dad paid for everything from her spa treatments to the organic sea moss smoothies she swears detoxed negativity. I was trying to go back to normal, doing emergency surgeries, handling midnight cases, helping a three-legged rescue pit bull named Daisy recover after being hit by a car. Real work. Real life. Unlike Brittany's content about healing through crystal alignment. Then came Thursday. I was elbow-deep in cat dental surgery. Don't laugh, cat molars are no joke, when my phone started blowing up. I ignored it at first. But when my smartwatch buzzed 12 times in a row, I checked. First message. Mike, my next-door neighbor. Dude, why is there a moving truck in your driveway? Then, Karen, sweet older woman across the street. There's a locksmith changing your front door locks. Is everything okay? Then more. From both. Rapid fire. They're bringing in furniture. Your sister and your dad are literally moving into your house. I nearly dropped the surgical tools. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency, understatement of the year, and sped home like my Corolla had a vengeance setting. When I pulled up, my jaw hit the steering wheel. There was a massive U-Haul in my driveway. A locksmith crouched by the front door. Brittany was directing movers like she was running a set on HGTV, and Dad, was leaning against the porch casually sipping iced coffee like this was all completely normal. Worst part? Her kids were already running around the yard shouting, "I want the room with the blue walls," and drawing on my garage door with markers. I parked behind the U-Haul, blocking them in. No way that truck was leaving until I got answers. I stormed up the front lawn. Brittany saw me and had the audacity to sigh. "Oh great, you're ruining the surprise. I was gonna do a full new home reveal for my followers." I blinked. "What the hell are you doing?" Dad stepped in, fake calm oozing from every word. "Son, we figured since you were being unreasonable, we'd help you make the right decision. Your sister and her children need a stable place to grow. She has your guest house." Brittany rolled her eyes. Dad's Wi-Fi is trash, and the lighting sucks. How am I supposed to build my brand in that environment? Then she said it. Look, just let us have the house. We'll find you a nice apartment near the hospital. Something with less beige energy. And then she smiled like that was a favor. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Brittany lunged and grabbed my wrist. You're not seriously calling the cops? She hissed, still holding her phone mid-live stream. I have 3 children. Who do you think they'll believe, me, or the single guy who plays with sick animals all day? Dad nodded, as if she just dropped the mic. Think about how this looks, son. We're a family. Be reasonable. You didn't even verify I own the house, did you? I said, looking at the locksmith, who suddenly looked very uncomfortable. He stammered. They said it was family property. Showed me some paperwork. Let me guess, I said, pulling up my digital folder. A PowerPoint printed in Comic Sans? I handed the guy my mortgage deed and property tax statements. All in my name. His face turned pale. Brittany started sputtering. Don't listen to him. This is emotional manipulation. This is patriarchal oppression of my vision board. I didn't flinch. Officer? I'd like to report a break-in. And that's when the circus became a crime scene. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Honestly, it felt like an hour with Brittany screeching in one ear and Dad pacing like a disgraced senator. 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. Brittany immediately kicked into full mommy influencer crisis mode. She flung her phone at one of her kids, who nearly fumbled it into the bushes, struck a dramatic pose on my porch, and shouted, "Oh, thank God you're here, officers!" Tears instantly appeared, probably activated by a mental script she'd rehearsed during her last lavender-scented meditation session. "This is a family emergency," she wailed, holding her toddler like a human shield. "My cruel brother is trying to leave me and my babies homeless. He locked us out of our future. Look at their faces." The kids were literally drawing stick figures with mustaches on my siding. One of them had Cheeto dust on his eyelids. The first officer, completely unbothered, flipped open his notebook. "Ma'am, I'm gonna need ID and proof of residence." "Perfect. My turn." I stepped up, keeping my hands steady even though I was vibrating inside. "Officers, I own this house. These people are trying to move in without my consent. Here's my deed, mortgage, tax docs, and license, all with this address." The second officer took one glance and nodded. The first turned to Brittany. "Ma'am? Do you have anything showing this is your property?" Dad stepped forward, all smug with his sad little briefcase. "We do," he said, pulling out papers I swear were still warm from the printer tray. The officer took one look, flipped through them, and sighed. Like a man who just realized he'd walked into a kindergarten performance of Law and Order, Family Edition. "Sir," the officer said dryly, "these are PowerPoint slides printed on letterhead. This isn't a legal transfer. This is a clip art cover page with a quote from Tony Robbins." Dad blinked. "We just thought." "Sir, did you forge any signatures on this?" Dad started sweating so hard I could see it through his polo. "I mean, define forge." The officer turned back to me. "Do you want to press charges?" Brittany gasped like I just slapped her with a Bible. "You can't do this. I have children. Content to create." I looked her dead in the eye. "You tried to steal my house." Then it happened. Out of nowhere, her middle kid, Mason, the 5-year-old, aka Human Truth Grenade, walked up to the nearest officer and asked, "Are we going to jail like that time Mommy took stuff from the mall?" The silence was biblical. The officer crouched. "Excuse me, buddy? What did you say?" Brittany's face drained of color faster than a detox smoothie. "He's confused," she screeched, grabbing him. "He means, that one time I returned something." "Mason, sweetie, didn't Mommy explain that?" But Mason wasn't done. "Oh no." This little legend turned to the other officer and said, "Mommy said the security guard was mean because he didn't believe she was famous, so Grandpa had to come give the store money." Dad was now staring at the clouds like they might suck him up into an alternate universe. The officers looked at each other. One stepped aside and spoke into his radio. I caught bits of it. Possible outstanding warrant. Suspect is Brittany Kendall Evans. Confirming shoplifting at North Park Mall 2 months ago. Brittany let out this high-pitched squeal and reached for her phone again, live stream reflex on autopilot. This is harassment, she cried. I'm being targeted. This is how society treats women with vision. But the officer wasn't done. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to stop filming. You're part of an active investigation. At that point, the movers, God bless them, started slowly backing away, furniture still halfway inside. One of them came up to me holding a sparkly corkboard covered in screenshots of my Zillow listing. Where should I put this? It said Brittany's manifestation mansion across the top in glitter glue. I deadpan pointed at the U-Haul. Back where it came from. The locksmith, pale as a ghost, finally pulled me aside and stammered. Look, man. I had no idea. I just saw the paper and thought it was legit. Please don't press charges. I'll give a full statement. I nodded slowly. As long as you tell the cops exactly what you saw, we're good. I didn't know it yet, but that locksmith statement was about to open a legal black hole under Brittany and Dad's entire operation. When the officers heard Mason's little mall story, everything shifted. One stepped away to radio in her name, Brittany Kendall Evans, and moments later, he came back with an expression like he just found a golden ticket to chaos. Ma'am, he said, you have an outstanding warrant. Shoplifting. Nordstrom. 2 months ago. Brittany gasped. That's not even. I was going to post about it. That merchandise was borrowed. It's called influencer marketing. Dad turned to her, whisper yelling. You said you cleared that up. They didn't understand my brand, she snapped. I was standing there, arms crossed, watching the empire fall like a soggy house of tarot cards. While they were arguing, one officer started reviewing the fake house documents. He called over his partner, then waved over the locksmith, who quickly spilled everything. How Brittany and Dad had insisted this was a family transfer. How they gave him printed slides, and how he maybe should have verified but didn't want to cause drama. Their fake paperwork wasn't just bad, it had forged signatures, fake notary stamps, and a fake LLC name Dad had apparently made up using a business generator site. It was clear, this wasn't some misunderstanding. This was fraud. That's when the full investigation opened. What started with a locksmith's nervous confession turned into a domino collapse. Turns out, Brittany hadn't just been scamming brands with fake reviews, using returned products. She'd been running a low-level grift operation, ordering brand sponsorship kits, filming polished pre-scheduled content, then returning everything for refunds, and still cashing in. Over 30 companies had been hit. She was flagged for social media deception, brand fraud, and influencing under false identity. Turns out, faking follower counts is a form of wire fraud when it involves paid endorsements. And I'd saved the receipts. All of them. And Dad? Oh boy. During the fraud audit, they found out he'd been embezzling from his firm, funneling money through a shell, consulting, company in Brittany's name. The same company, he claimed paid for her Range Rover, spa days, private schools, and business retreats, to Miami. They traced over $300,000 in undocumented withdrawals, money that should have gone to client accounts. Now the firm's suing him. And the state's pressing charges. So yeah? Brittany and Dad? Cooked. Meanwhile, Brittany's kids got their own plot twist. Jaden's dad, remember the Soundcloud rapper she blew house money on? He cleaned up his act, married a child psychologist, and petitioned for full custody. He won. The kids are safe now. Public school, therapy, actual parental structure. And get this, they're thriving. And my house? Still mine. I finally painted over the marker murals on my garage. Got a security system that the neighbors jokingly call Fort Knox. My spare bedroom? Now a proper office. No more TikTok auditions, no more crystals in the kitchen drawers. Then last week, I got a letter. From Brittany. Handwritten. Postmarked from our mom's house in Florida, where she'd fled to detox from societal oppression. Inside, a long, teary plea about how she, Mrs. Family, has learned her lesson and wants to rebuild our bond. She even offered to promote my veterinary clinic on her new influencer account, which, by the way, had lost over 80% of its followers since the arrest. I took a photo of the letter. Wrote, "No," on it in red Sharpie. Mailed it back. She's already posted about it, of course. Something vague like, "Sometimes the universe takes you to rock bottom so you can find the diamonds in the dirt." But I know the truth. And the best part? I sleep like a baby. Because I kept my house. I kept my dignity. And I didn't sell out my spine just to keep the peace.